Parents, let's talk about sensory overload. So many of you have been in this situation before. You go into a busy restaurant or you walk into the grocery store and all of a sudden your kid feels overwhelmed. They're covering their ears and they're starting to just get ramped up and really anxious, really overexcited. Or maybe it's a sensory trigger. Maybe it's the clothing, it's the tags, it's the seam on the socks, or only certain pants that your kids will wear. Or sometimes it just shows up in their behavior, right? You can tell they are so overwhelmed and overstimulated when they're just chilling, when you're just at home, when there's nothing extra going on. It doesn't take much to push them over the edge. It doesn't take much to have them reach that breaking point where maybe there's a meltdown, an explosion, a tantrum, or sometimes a shutdown, right? We get to the older kiddos, it's not so much explosive, it's this exhaustion and shutdown state. When you're dealing with that, you're not given a whole lot of helpful advice. Maybe you're told by your providers they'll just grow out of it. Eventually, they will get to a place where they're more regulated and everything is fine. Or you're told that this isn't a problem that you can handle with any other means than behavioral intervention, right? It's a parenting issue. It's a different behavioral concern that you need to address, and maybe get some specific therapy or parenting coaching around that. What if there was a different story? What if there was something else going on? That's what we see neurologically. When we look at the nervous system, we can really understand, where is this coming from? Why are our kids struggling with this so much? That's what this video is all about, parents. So if that is you, if you have a kid that's dealing with sensory challenges, which a lot of times that goes hand in hand with ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorder labels, and really just behavioral or emotional regulation struggles, please tune into this, because I want to get into the science. I want to get into the neurology so that you understand where this is coming from and what you can do about it. This is not an uncommon problem. The CDC has shared that up to 40% of kids are dealing with some sort of chronic illness, and a growing portion of those are sensory challenges. That is the root of so many other issues. We see, like we just said, ADHD, focus, behavioral or emotional challenges, autism. A lot of those are sensory in nature when you really understand the neurology. And let's get into that, because this isn't just a behavioral or a parenting thing. Those things matter, right? I want you to be intentional with your parenting and be lovingly guiding your kids. But we need to make it easier. We need to give you a fighting chance by addressing what's going on at a deeper level. So what we see, we got to understand some basic principles. What we see from the nervous system is that kids are stuck in a dysregulated state. Let me give you an overview of what that means. There's two different modes your nervous system has. There is the gas pedal and the brake pedal. The gas pedal is your survival mode. The gas pedal, that is your fight or flight. You're running from a bear in the woods and your body just has to survive the minute. It is okay to temporarily be in that stressed out state. But then the brake pedal, when we are there, the brake pedal gets shut off. The brake pedal is your regulation, your digestion, your immune system, your sleep. All of this stuff that we need for wellness is that parasympathetic brake pedal tone. So this gas versus brake balance is at the root of so much for us, moms and dads. That's why we're doing a stressed out parents webinar next week. It's so important for us, but it is immensely important for our kids and for their development, especially in those early years. Where we're at here makes all the difference. What happens, and we'll explain why here in a minute, what happens in so many of our kids is their baseline, their resting state, isn't down here at a 0 or a 1 or a 2 out of 10. It's here. It's a 7 or an 8 or a 9. They are treading water, barely keeping their head above. And the slightest bit of change in schedule, the slightest bit of irritation, the slightest bit of being told no, and we hit that breaking point. We hit that red line. That's what's going on. It's not what maybe you've said or what you've been told before of, man, they just go from 0 to 100 at the bat of an eye. It's not 0 to 100. They're already at 95. They're already at 87. They're already so overstimulated internally. Their brain is already so noisy that it doesn't take much external input to push over the edge. Whether it's the weird food texture or the clothes or the noise, that is what's happening physiologically. So when we understand that, we can start to think about how can we help support them. It's not just about avoiding those triggers. Yeah, sure, if your kid is going to lose it if you go into a noisy environment, let's not, go the exposure therapy route and just force them to deal with it. That's not going to go well. Let's try to heal that deeper sense, that deeper trigger that is going on so that they can handle those external environments better. Where is this coming from? Let's answer that. Let's answer, how do we heal it? And where is this coming from? The perfect storm, that language, that phrase that you hear us use at Thrive all the time, that is the story of kids stuck in stress. Kids stuck in that gas pedal fight or flight mode, oftentimes from early on in life. That can start as prenatal stress, right? That can start as mom and dad having fertility struggles or a lot of stress and anxiety during pregnancy because of some of the things that they faced. And it definitely gets ramped up more often than not in the birth process. The birth process is such a key one that sets the framework for our nervous system for years and decades to come. The most important part of the calming side of your nervous system, that brake pedal, that parasympathetic tone, there's a nerve called your vagus nerve. It goes out of the base of your skull right by those first couple cervical vertebrae. And when you have significant birth stress and birth trauma, which usually means there's C-section, forceps, vacuum extraction, or hands-on pulling, turning, and twisting at that head and neck, those extra forces, that physical pulling and torsioning of that brainstem, really delicate, really fragile and sensitive and important area, there is such a huge downstream consequence from it. You basically are shutting off the brake pedal. You're turning down that regulation, which is why we also see these babies colicky, refluxy, constipated, unable to latch, to nurse really well. It's because we've had that injury and that insult from the get-go. So we have that start to life, we have those early struggles, and that only gets compounded, right? Whether it's more physical traumas, more chemical toxic exposures, man, there's so much that our kids have to face, let alone the extra emotional challenges that they deal with once they get to older ages in school. Those all trigger that fight or flight mode. Those are all pushing their nervous system into that survival state, into a more regulated place. That is what we actually get to measure with our scans. That is the technology we use at Thrive to assess how is your nervous system handling life. It's that. It's where's your gas pedal? Where's your brake pedal? Are we in a regulated place, or have we shifted way out of balance one way or another? And then the EMG and the thermal scan, that let us hone in on where are those primary stresses? Where do we see those underlying patterns really locked in so that we can put together that personalized specific care plan for your kid to get them out of that stressed out, locked in state into a more healing growth and development trajectory. And that is the solution, right? That is how we heal from the inside out, is we pump the brakes. We calm that internal noise so that that feedback loop that their nervous system is taking in all the time isn't SOS, alarm bells, and Metallica blaring internally all the time. It's calm, it's peace, it's elevator music. That's what we need. And that's what happens when we can go from a 8 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10. It doesn't mean that parenting is easy. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have another outburst or a tantrum or a struggle. It just means that you have a chance to regulate. It means that your kid has a chance to take a breath, use the coping mechanisms that you've talked about, explain their emotions, explain how they're feeling. They're not teetering on the brink of that meltdown all the time. Because that's what happens is we see that when they're already so sensitized, there isn't an opportunity to take a breath or to regulate or to use some of the things that maybe you've lovingly talked about and guided them as a parent. They just immediately lose it. We see that all the time. A little girl that we were just sharing about this week at Thrive, Miss Vienna, it used to be hard to just get her into the office. To walk through those doors was overwhelming. It was a new place. There's other kids. There's other noises. That still happens. There's still times where that stimulation will set her off, but now adjustments are amazing. She loves being here. She doesn't want to leave because the playing is her favorite part of being a part of Thrive. Those changes have happened with time of calming her nervous system, getting it out of that dysregulated, noisy state into a place of ease, into a place of balance. I hope that helps, parents. I hope that gives a little different light on why we have so many kids struggling with those overwhelmed sensory dysregulation challenges. Yes, I need you to parent them appropriately and have the right behavioral game plan and interventions, but don't start there. If you start there, if you start at that higher level cognitive regulation with the foundation, the baseline operating system of their nervous system, stuck in stress and stuck in fight or flight, man, you're swimming upstream. You are fighting an uphill battle that you're probably not going to win. So let's start there. Let's start with that foundational healing, and then let's build on it. And then let's help support them in other ways as well. If that is your kid, if you need that help, please reach out to our team. That is what we're here for. We would love to do those scans. We would love to dig into their case history, their perfect storm battles, their nervous system, and put pen to paper of where are we at and what can we do to get out of it. That's the game plan is we'll do scans, we'll give the consult, and then we'll go through their customized, personalized game plan for what adjustment frequency, what adjustment techniques do we need to use to get them into a better spot. Please reach out, schedule that appointment for your kid if that's what they need, and I can't wait to meet you in the office soon and help your family thrive.